Besides the honor of having Dr. Paul here today, it's really great to see two groups that I really admire here. Sorry about the fraternity, I was Sigma Alpha Epsilon. Any brothers here? But seeing Young Americans for Liberty here up on stage with the UNH College Republicans. These are two groups that really were critical in helping me get elected. They had a boot camp where about 30 or 40 Young Americans for Liberty came out, knocked on doors for me over one weekend, knocked on over 1,000 doors. Then the UNH College Republicans were a huge help to me, and they were also a huge help to the New Hampshire Senate in general, where we have 19-5 Republican senators now, thanks to these guys. So nicely done. I think these two groups should be together because the Republican Party should stand for liberty. I also want to recognize Zach Azem. See out here? Stand up, Zach.
He's not here.
I just saw him. He was out in the hallway. Okay. So Zach was my campaign manager, a UNH political science major. So it was great to have Zach's help, and I guess I hear his girlfriend say So rather than give a big, long, factual introduction of Dr. Paul, what I want to do is talk a little bit about my story and why I'm here today. I was not involved in politics up until 1997. Early 1997, I went to see Dr. Paul speak. This was before he was an announced candidate in 2008. I heard him speak, and there's a couple things that really struck me. First, he talked about the Soviet Union and the Soviet collapse, and how we had some of the same issues here in our country, and that we may be headed for a financial collapse because of that. And I was somebody who traveled to the Soviet Union in '84 and '86, back before the collapse. And I remember my Soviet studies teacher had predicted the collapse a few years prior. So that's something that really hit me, because I saw the Soviet collapse. I did see the similarities like he saw, that not many people in America do see, but they're starting to see now. And so that really struck me. I had never heard a political candidate make that comparison, much less somebody in office. The other thing that really hit me, that I really enjoyed, was his talk about too much military interventionism. I was somebody who had served for 12 years in the Air Force, and I had flown combat support operations for Bosnia, Somalia, and Iraq. And it was always frustrating to me that we didn't go to Congress to declare war. And it was always frustrating to me that, and a lot of times, it seems like we're defending other countries rather than our own. So that was something that really resonated with me. A subject that he talked about that I wasn't as familiar with, although I'd read a little bit on stability, the importance of stability in money, was the Federal Reserve System. So this was something, the first two items really resonated with me and made me really want to get active, and the second was something that really made me want to educate myself, and I think that's true of a lot of Americans. Because you fast forward to 2010, and if you look, there's a lot more understanding of the Federal Reserve System, especially because of the financial crisis that we've had recently. We've seen the collapse of the housing bubble. We've seen the banking crisis. All things that Dr. Paul was talking about in 2007 that we're seeing come to pass right now. And unfortunately, I don't think it's over. We've got trillions of dollars in deficit spending now every year. We've had trillions of dollars of liquidity added to attempt to stop the collapse of our currency. Instead, we are facing potential great inflation. We're starting to see it in oil and food. All issues that he was talking about. And I remember when he was on stage in the presidential debates, he talked about a recession, and he was literally laughed at the time. And now look, with 10% unemployment. Another thing that's interesting about Dr. Paul is he doesn't get as much credit for as he should, is he did start the Tea Party movement. I remember going down to speak at the Boston Tea Party in 2007, which was essentially a campaign rally for Dr. Paul, but really around the issues. And I spoke there in 2007 about foreign intervention. And then later on, people would ask me, are you a Tea Party candidate? I said, well, I did speak at a Tea Party meeting in 2007. They said, well, but the Tea Party started in 2008, didn't it? No, it started in 2007 with Dr. Paul and these ideas. So, sorry. And if you look at what's happened in the modern Tea Party movement, because it has kind of, other people have jumped on board. If you look, I think the Tea Party really has started to really embrace and understand the issue behind the Federal Reserve. When I go to different meetings with these guys, they're really starting to get it. Unfortunately, the Tea Party has not unitarily embraced the idea of cutting back on our intervention overseas. That's something, if you're a true fiscal conservative, you have to start talking about. I was very encouraged at CPAC, that discussion among conservatives is happening now. And it's thanks to Dr. Paul. So please welcome to the stage tonight a doctor who's delivered over 4,000 babies, a man who's been a member of Congress and always stood up for the U.S. Constitution, a man I very much respect and admire, and welcome him to the free state of New Hampshire, Dr. Ron Paul.